Rockinitis.
I wanna go to heaven, but I've been told the Rockinitis has got my soul. Been rocking and rolling till the break of dawn, and I wonder if my baby is still at.
Hi, cats and kittens. Welcome to Rockinitis. My name is Michael Willmore. And I have a special guest here, Aaron Chapman, who is a author, mainly on musical subjects.
That's right.
Or
yes.
on rock and roll culture.
A little bit, yes,
Yeah.
Michael. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
I have this is a highlight for me to be in Rockinitis. I've been a fan for so long to actually be on the show.
Okay.
I'm a little breathless. So
I thought you were on the other network.
Yes, I have to say yes. It's on another. Yeah, my show's on another network. Yes, of course. That's the way to do it.
But anyway, what I wanted to start off the discussion with is on your recent kerfuffle that you caused in Vancouver over the Led Zeppelin playing at Air Canberra.
Right.
Okay, I have a couple of my best friends, Bob Hoffman and Jim Zimmerman, both went to Hamburg in 1970.
Right.
And their friend, who I don't know, Richard, who's now a lawyer, he went there as well. He looked up the date, which I believe was May 21st, it had on the annual.
Yes, in 1970.
Yeah. And it said, and he discovered that that was actually technically a Saturday.
Right. Yes.
So anyway, that was all bogus.
Right. Correct.
And the whole story actually turned out to be bogus.
Exactly. To backtrack, maybe for people who aren't familiar with it, the story has to do with this rumor that had persisted since the early 1970s that Led Zeppelin, on their which was the beginning of a North American tour that they did, starting here in Vancouver, playing a show at the Pacific Coliseum in March 1970. They couldn't get into the Coliseum when they wanted to, or there was some issue like this, so they needed to get in, and they had to rehearse, so they needed to practice with some sort of new gear, or maybe rehearse a lighting show.
Work out the kinks.
Work out the kinks, basically. And an audio tech at the Coliseum said, well, if you guys don't want to come here right now, you can maybe load into my kid's school. It's a pretty new school. It's a nice stage or something, and why don't you do it there? And this had persisted for the better part of 44, 45 years, this rumor. And there were people who said, there's no way this is true. And there's other people said, I saw it with my own eyes. And it was like it's like a UFO sighting in Vancouver or something, to the people who maybe saw it or didn't see it. And so it had always interested me. And I remember talking to you about it maybe a couple of years ago.
Okay.
As well, as one sort of puts some feelers out to find out what's going on, and I was curious to see what you had heard anything about it.
No, actually, I never heard anything about the Eric Hamber story at all.
Right.
Ever. I never heard anything about it.
my days with a woman unkind, smoked my stuff and drank all my wine. Made up my mind, make a new start, going to California with an aching in my heart. Someone told me there's a girl out there with love in her eyes and flowers in her hair.
The first I heard about it was the Facebook story that got posted on Facebook.
And I think
everything.
we were both corresponding on that
Yes.
thread.
Now, I got into a tiff with a guy who was reporting on it and talking about, oh yes, this happened and that happened.
Right.
And they did this song and they did that song and, you know, so-and-so was there and they saw it and all this kind of stuff. Okay, there was a woman I used to go with.
Right.
And
What do you say go with?
well, I went around with
Okay,
it
went around.
for
Sorry,
like
yeah.
2 years.
Okay, good.
We
I
went
just
around.
wanted to make sure we define our slang here.
Okay, we were sleeping together. Okay. Anyways, so she said that Led Zeppelin had played at her high school.
Right. And did she go to
No,
Hamburg?
but we weren't even talking about this.
Right.
Okay, she just happened to say this. So I went, oh yeah. And she goes, you don't believe me, do you? So I went, well, okay, if you say so, you know. She goes, oh, I'll prove it to you. So she goes into her bedroom,
Right.
rummages around in the closet, comes back with her 1970
Right, same year.
annual, and it was from Centennial School.
Where's that? Is that up to
It's a school that covers a huge area.
Right.
That people from all around, you know, the hinterlands go
right.
to this school.
Sure.
It's a huge high school.
Okay.
Anyway, she shows me a picture, you know, on page 83 or something.
Right.
And it says, the Led Zeppelin music group played the senior prom. And there's a picture of them.
Right.
Okay. So I went, wow, I guess it's true.
Wow.
So anyway, that was that.
Yeah.
She put it away and all that. So when this stuff got posted about the Eric Hamber appearance of Led Zeppelin, I put my foot in my mouth, or basically stumbled into the discussion by saying this. So the guy that was talking to, you know, on Facebook, that was talking about the Eric Hamber appearance, assumed that I was trying to undermine his story.
It's amazing on social media the viciousness.
Oh, yeah.
That this debate has. There's a Led Zeppelin news group where I first read about it, and people were just being torn apart for those people who did say that I saw something that time at Hamber and whatnot. You know, in the end game of this, the research that I found, and when I was doing this, my pal Squire Barnes over at Global, also. I told him about this. He said, "Let's do something together on this." So there was something we did for Global TV as well at that point, but that sort of came out along with this story. That we discovered that the photo that had been taken, at least in the Eric Hamber annual, had been taken not at Eric Hamber Auditorium, but at the show by a student who had a telephoto lens.
Okay.
And took the picture, and the story had been made up by the yearbook committee, who put in a bunch of different jokes.
Well, this is like...
But that still doesn't answer the question about what happened at Centennial.
Yes. Okay, now I think you don't believe me. So I'm making a public plea.
Yes.
A public plea. Please send me a Xerox of the full page of the 1970 Centennial Annual with that picture where it says the Led Zeppelin music group played the senior hop, or
I want to see it too.
Sock hop, or whatever.
Yeah.
I really
School dance. Yeah.
Okay, if you can send me a Xerox of that, I'll show it to Aaron, and that'll prove to him that I'm not hallucinating.
Yeah, I'll eat my hat. Yes.
Can you find your article in there?
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know what page it's on.
It's right. A 2-page spread there in the Vancouver Courier.
2-page spreads are nice.
There we go.
Okay, this is the article here that Aaron wrote, and it caused quite a sensation, I must say, in Vancouver. Everybody discussed it and so forth and so on.
And the nice thing is that a lot of people who didn't necessarily have any stake in the Zeppelin story, they did quote incidents where they had remembered like Heart playing their high school dance.
Yes.
Or the Pointed Sticks even, or a bunch of different bands from a certain era of the 1970s where bands used to play high schools all the time. You know, which was great to hear. You know.
Yeah, like I used to. I mean, I can recall at my high school we had like the Vancouver Playboys, the Nocturnals, Kentish Steel and the Chantels. All these different groups played at our sock hops.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and the teachers used to come up to me because they knew I knew about music.
Yeah.
And they would say, "Are these guys any good, Willmore? Are these guys any good?"
That's great. Wow.
And I'd say, they're too derivative.
A critic at an early age. Yeah.
Anyway, this I have to say, you understand the Vancouver media because you know what will inspire them to write reams of crap, you know, about an event, right?
Well, I'm born and raised here, you know, so there's not, you are too. In
Yes.
fact, I know we grew up in the same area of town.
And I just wanted to show this. This is the follow-up.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah, and that was a follow-up because in the wake of a bunch of people stepping forward and the people from the yearbook committee, we thought we should add a little bit to the story and what happened. And we had found out that a band called Spring played at the auditorium.
Right.
And a lot of people who think that they saw Zeppelin play, it might have been that show.
Well,
but at the same time, I just got an email yesterday from a woman who said that she was her and her friends did a Led Zeppelin like lip sync performance at Eric Hamber High School that she said was really great and really convincing, and she's wondering if people are mixing that story up with Spring along with so what we have here is a perfect storm for this thing to have occurred. But you know, in many ways, you know, when you're sort of a city historian or a cultural historian like this, you try and sort of maybe showcase an interesting thing. This is something that it's almost like sort of a myth we've debunked in a way.
Yeah, but I think the story has legs.
It sure
and
does.
I think it will continue on.
I think so.
Because you get, okay,
because now we got to get a Centennial High School now.
Yeah, okay, so somebody will walking down the hall and hears some other local group doing Immigrant Song or something or other.
Yeah.
And, you know, doing a version of it.
Yeah.
They'll go, yeah, I remember walking down the hall and hearing the group, you know, and so they'll make up a story to go with that.
Yeah.
And once they hear themselves tell it, they believe it.
I know I had to get back to the people that had told me that they saw Led Zeppelin play at Eric Hammer, and I said, well, what do you think about this stuff that I've found out since? And these people refuse to believe it. They just think those people, the yearbook committee, they don't know what we're talking about. It's a cover-up.
We want to think. Look, Vancouver, it's like Mayberry. I mean, it's a small town mindset.
It can be.
And like. And every time, you know, it's like my brush with greatness.
Yes.
I mean, every time somebody from outside that's a worldwide phenomenon comes to Vancouver, we kind of fall all over ourselves.
We do.
What did they think about Vancouver?
Exactly.
Did you see this? Did you see that? What kind of weather was it?
Yeah.
Okay, like when David Bowie came here, there was some delay and they had an hour and a half to kill. And
this was at the BC Place?
I don't know what the event was.
Okay.
But anyway, he was here and he was here early.
Right.
Or they weren't ready or something. So they had an hour and a half to kill. He was in a helicopter being taken to the event.
Right.
So they had an hour and a half to kill. So they thought, let's take him on a tour of the Gulf Islands and then we'll come back.
Yeah.
So they said, oh, he went on the tour of the Gulf Islands? This is what the local media said.
Right.
So they said, yeah, and he flew over the southern tip of Gambier Island, and you know, and this. Oh, he went right. So anyway, the next day they rented a helicopter and flew over the route that David Bowie.
Just so we could see what David saw.
Yeah, this is what David saw.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
And they did and I thought that is so small town.
Yeah.
You know. Like, who gives a damn what he saw? But anyway, it matters to us.
It does. Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I got to say, you certainly stirred the pot with this story.
Well, I wasn't sure how people would take it. And I know a few people got angry at the story because they said you're sort of reporting on a rumor, and it was just before April Fools when some of this stuff started coming out that people thought it was a prank that we were doing and whatnot. But it wasn't that at all. It was just to sort of get to the bottom of it and why people had said they saw what they saw all those years ago. So it was certainly interesting to do. There's all sorts of amazing little sort of crazy stories like that in Vancouver over the years, and I like focusing on them.
I see it as my brush with greatness. Like whenever somebody from the outside world comes here and notices us,
sure,
then we want to know what they noticed.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really weird.
I know, it's a strange thing. I find myself doing that too at times. So.
Okay, haul out your book there, Liquor, Lust, and the Law.
Sure. There it is right here. Yeah.
And hold it, maybe stick it in that area.
Right over here. I also contributed to a book called Vancouver Confidential.
Okay.
And the chapter that I did in there, well, 2 chapters had to do, one with the old Bomac sign.
Okay.
And the guy that got up on top of the Bomac sign.
Oh, right. That's an interesting story.
His alibi was, he was poisoning his wife, but his alibi, he was up on top of the sign as a
You can,
as
if
part
you
of
take that tour of the coronary, what is that?
Oh, the coroner's...
Coroner's
down the police
tour.
museum?
Yeah, that I
Vancouver
took
Police
about
Museum.
5 Halloweens ago.
Yeah.
I took that tour, and then they told all about it.
Yeah.
And everything. I read about it later, and that's an interest. That would make a movie.
Oh, yeah. It's
You know,
amazing, yeah.
Here's the guy. He's a disc jockey.
That's right. A disc jockey with a radio station in town.
Yeah.
And there was a promotion that he was going to stay up on top of the sign until all the cars were sold in the lot. And they'd cut to him reporting up there, and he had a little clothesline out, there at one point, in the
Well, he's up on this pinnacle,
Yeah.
2 blocks up in the air,
Yeah.
or something. And he's
This is in 1965, by the way. Yeah.
And so anyway, in the meantime, he's trying to get rid of his wife because he's got a crush on the secretary.
Exactly.
At work.
Yeah. It's double
And,
indemnity.
and so he's poisoning her with arsenic.
Yes. It's
And the
incredible.
only time they did tests on her hair afterwards.
That's right.
And they found out the only time when, according to the hair sample, when there wasn't arsenic in her system was the 2 weeks he was up on the Bomac sign.
That's right. Yeah.
What a story! That would make a movie.
It feels like a movie. There's so many stories like that feel like a movie. They're pre-written, like in this town. I don't know why. In many cases, some of the movie producer powers that be in this country don't zone in on them because they're just incredible. So.
Okay, now before we do anything, we should go to the Led Zeppelin.
Oh, let's do it. I love
because
it.
we were discussing that. Okay, this is an unusual Led Zeppelin album because it features a couple of live tracks recorded for the BBC.
Right.
So let's put it in the CD player. Now,
Yeah.
I know you've never used or seen the CD player.
This is incredible.
So can you turn it, however you can to see it? Put the CD in.
Where does it go
you
here?
Tap it here,
Oh,
and
just
then
right-
the drawer opens.
Let me see here. 1 second. Oh, here we go. Tap it. This is. Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So you stick it in.
This is high. This is
Oh,
high
it's real
technology.
high tech.
This is incredible, Michael.
So then you press see the white button? You press that and that will start it.
White button.
So this is a live version of Immigrant Song and Black Dog.
All right.
Led Zeppelin. Drive our ships to new land, fight the horde, sing and cry. Valhalla, I'm
That song, Immigrant Song, we had a Christmas party, like I worked at Molson Brewery forever, and we had a Christmas party at Molson, and we had a fabulous comedian on there that played the accordion.
Right.
And he used it as a prop. So he was discussing what it was like being at the beach the other day, and he said somebody walked past me, and they had a portable radio on their shoulder like this. And it sounded kind of like this. And he goes, ah, and he plays the accordion, right? And it sounded exactly like a guy walking past playing Immigrant Song,
That's good.
on the beach. Anyway, he did a wonderful version of it.
I'm told Black Dog, which is based around a John Paul Jones bass line,
Okay.
he purposely came up with the song because he wanted to make a song that was impossible to dance to.
That's an ambition?
Yeah.
What?
And he thought it would be funny to make a song that would be like, just to see if people could dance, because it's so herky-jerky, that song, that there'd be no way you could feasibly dance to it, which I thought was such a great idea.
Hey, mama said the way you move, gonna make you sweat, gonna make you groove.
I want to discuss the book, the second book that you wrote.
Yes.
Which is Live at the Commodore. And I really like the inscription you have written on here, which says, I have Rockinitis and I need to see a doctor about it. Enjoy the book. So I'd like to display that.
Ah, excellent.
Anyway, this is a really good, my best friend, this is a really good book. My
Thank you
best
very
friend
much.
got it for Christmas.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So he wants to discuss it all the time.
Well, that's good. It was a very fun book to write. I'm surprised actually no one had beaten me to it, to write a Commodore, because it seems like a natural thing. Just like the Penthouse nightclub, it's sort of one of those places that everybody knows in Vancouver and is stacked with stories and history to it.
Show your Penthouse book.
Yeah, sure. This was the first one I did back in 2012, and the Commodore book came out in 2014, and was the winner of BC Book Prize this past year, which I'm certainly honored about.
Well, I have to say that when I went to the Commodore promotion,
book launch
that you did at the Commodore, that was like the most interesting. I've never been to a book signing or a book that was so much fun, ever.
Well, most book signings tend to be sort of these quiet wine and cheese affairs in the back of a bookstore, and maybe there's enough people that maybe make up a jury, enough, whatnot, and they're a little sedate and they're a little quiet, and there's people sort of maybe scribbling some poetry.
And then the author looks up, it takes 1 second to look at the person he's signing the book for.
Sure,
and then signs it, right?
And but this was like a concert unto its own, and we had about 800 people.
It was a blast.
It was great, and the Jazzmanian Devils played, and Crosstown Bus played, which was the band that had opened for Mitch Ryder on the very first very first rock and roll show ever at the Commodore in July 1971.
Oh, really? Okay.
And so it was great having them back on that stage again, and the Hard Rock Miners played, and we had a presentation from the Vancouver Heritage Foundation as well. So a bunch of things came together. So it was a great night of a bunch of book people in the room, some music people in the room, some folks from bands, and a great sort of maelstrom of, and that was, one of the most fun nights I've had.
Well, I happened to be sitting right beside Jeff Meigs.
Right.
Who is Mayor Gregor Robertson's right-hand man.
Sure.
Okay, and normally when I'm sitting beside a guy like that, I would immediately give him crapola about all the things I disagree with that are going on in the city.
Sure.
But I was having such a good time. All I did was say, how are you? Everything's
That's
wonderful.
Great.
And we had a great time, and I never said one derogatory thing. Because I was having too good
I know
a time.
he's a fan of the show, so I'm sure he is. Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure I'm sure he was glad to see you there too. So
anyway, we had a good time, and it was catered, and you got up on the stage and read from your book.
I did, yes.
And it was great. I've never really been to a book promotion.
Well, I don't think
that was like that.
I don't think they're all necessarily like that. And I almost feel now that I've sort of set the tone with book launch parties, because when we did the one for the Penthouse nightclub book, that was great in there as well, and it was a packed night, and it was same kind of vibe in the room.
Okay.
So it's almost hard to be. I got to think of. I almost don't have to worry about the books now. I have to think about the parties to throw at this thing. It's terrible, but it's.
Well, I realized that night at the Commodore, this guy is a party animal. He's not a guy that sits around pecking away like you're not the little pecker I thought you were.
Right. Well, thank you for saying so. Yeah.
I mean, you were really having a good time.
It was.
And the whole crowd had a good time.
It was great. It was. I only wish I would have had a chance to have a drink myself, because I thought, well, I got to sort of keep focused here, and I have to read from the book, so I don't want to be sort of stammering my way, like sort of Forrest Tucker or something, or Forrest Whitaker through the front.
Well, I remember afterwards, I said to you when we went to the autograph table, I remember saying to you that...
I couldn't get away from there. I had to sign...
I remember saying to you, you must have sold a lot of copies that night.
We did, yeah. We sold 200-300 books.
Wow.
That night. It was incredible. So there was a really good appetite for it. And the Commodore is one of those rooms that I think sort of instills that, people wanted to get behind it. People wanted to read a Commodore book, and people wanted to hear those stories. And I think that the time was right we're in a period in history in Vancouver where some of the old venues are disappearing.
Yes.
I mean, Vancouver's had a history of venues disappearing going back generations.
Yes.
Now there's some of the great venues, and you can go all the way back from the Cave and Izzy's,
Yes.
all the way up to the Smiling Buddha, and then on to places like the Town Pump and Richards on Richards and the Starfish Room.
Yeah.
And it just a list as long as my arm, you know, like. So the fact that the Commodore is still there, 85 years later after it was built, is an incredible thing
Yes.
in the city that's changed so much.
Well, I remember my mother, back when I was in like grade 6 or whatever, going down to the Commodore, and my stepfather would be dressed in a suit. My mother would have this formal evening gown on. And anyway, she was all dressed up, dressed to the nines. And I said, "Where are you going?" Just to the Commodore. So I went, "Oh." And then anyway, then I started to kind of get upset and over her appearance, and I just sort of left. She says, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And she chased me all around from room to room, and I didn't have the guts to tell her what was bothering me.
Right.
So she says, "What is wrong, Michael? What's wrong?" I said, "You look so old-fashioned."
Right.
And so she went, "Oh, do I?"
Yeah.
Anyway, the next time she went to the Commodore, she had a totally different outfit, and she looked kind of hip.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Well, it's one of those. It's funny because it's one of those rooms that if you you know, it's probably happened for a couple generations of people in Vancouver, that if you told your folks you were going to the Commodore, well, that was all right, you know, because they went there. You know?
Yes.
And there's very few cross-generational places in Vancouver where your grandparents went to, you could go to, and your kids could go to.
Right.
Essentially, you know, like there's a, you can count them on one hand in Vancouver because the city's changed so much, and so it's interesting that you know, my late father, and I used to play in bands in town. I still do a little bit, but the only time I played a lot of like kind of seedy punk rock bars, and I didn't really feel good inviting my father down to. But when we were playing the Commodore, it was something that I thought he'll enjoy this. He's been there. He used to go dancing with my mother there, and this and that. So he came down, and we were opening for a band. We were opening for a band called Spirit of the West.
Okay.
And even though we were the opening band, he just thought all those people were there for us. So he thought, my God, my son.
So he was impressed.
Yeah, he thought my son's a rock star. I had no idea that all these people paid tickets to see him.
Should I fall out of love my far in the night to chase a feather in the wind within the glow that weaves a cloak of delight that moves a thread that has no end for many hours and days that pass ever soon the tides of course the flame.
I really appreciate your work.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
This was-
I hope I will not be cured of my Rockinitis anytime soon.
Okay, thank you. Bye for now.
Okay.